week 2's here, baby. We're getting excited. Big 12, little bits of a sloppy week last week. Couldn't clean up the full clean slate like the Pac-12 certainly did, but lots of great stuff here, and we're going to get into it. But top of the show, top of our hearts for sure. Both from a loving and a hateful spot. It's Cyhawk game. We're here. This is the big one. I would, they had a good showing against Utah State. They won by a couple of touchdowns. It was very cute effort.
Yep,
couldn't get to 25 points per game. I'd imagine, they got some work to do there, but I think that's important.
Yeah, if Brian Ferentz wants to feed his family, they need to get that number up.
I mean, I got to get going. I got bills to pay. I mean, that's Utah State.
They do.
That's the game that you got to feast on because going into the Big Ten slate, I don't think the defenses are going to get worse than Utah State. But then Utah or Iowa State, on the other hand, pretty good showing against you and I. Certainly clear that it's a 25 points per game threshold that Iowa can't seem to get over. But is that the game that you're looking forward to most?
Well, I mean, just from a personal standpoint, yes. Cyhawk Week is such a weird week in the state of Iowa, just from the standpoint of it depends on how fans perceive it. Some Iowa fans say this is like a big rivalry, maybe a few even say main rivalry. Some say we don't even view this as an important game. Like this is like the lowest importance of the season. Big 10 plays more important, which yes, on paper it is, but I think pride means something, whether you like it or not. And players and coaches care. I can guarantee that. But it's a weird game. There's always a lot of family allegiances. That's always a rivalry game. That's why those are going to have a lot of juice. And you'll get some weird viral moments almost always from the Iowa State game. Last year's viral moment was this older gentleman they panned to in the crowd, and this guy's wearing a Iowa hoodie, and it's weird. He gets to him, he looks dead in the camera, and he like looks both ways, and then he goes shh, and he pulls up and has an Iowa State shirt on underneath. And I'm like, that guy like perfectly puts into perspective this rivalry, because there are, I mean, people in the state too that like, it's not like Auburn and Alabama where you have to pick one side and you're all in. Now, that a lot of fans get ticked off this, but there are definitely some people throughout the state that are like, oh, we like to see our state teams just do well, but usually there's no affiliation to either university. Of course, I want to see, Iowa lose every single week if it was up to me. But it's a weird rivalry. It's a unique rivalry. It's had a whole quality of barrage of names throughout the year, some flattering and not so much. But it will be a really good game, a good test for Iowa on the road, considering they still have some aspirations. And for Iowa State, an opportunity to get another one on Iowa, keep building something positive forward. And with this series potentially in jeopardy in the next few years, these games are major for both teams, but definitely just from a sentimental and rivalry week, you want to win. So
you got that right. And I think, of course, I want Iowa to lose every game as a Husker fan deep down. But it does feel very loser-ish to discount this rivalry if you're Iowa. Of course, historical dominance or whatever you want to call it's fine. But I mean, this is a big deal. And I think even like last year losing to Iowa State, I mean, that's a big deal. It's something that you got to take care of. The Big Ten West is wide open, so you really want to try to feast on your non-conference schedule as much as possible. And you're right, going forward, if they try to squeeze in another conference game there in the Big 24, Big 40, however many teams are going to be in that conference, but when it's all said and done, Iowa State might get the chopping block. We might be like, well, we want to feast on a team at home every year when, it happened with TCU and SMU here. That, I mean, they're good rivals. They play every year home and home. And then all of a sudden, like, well, we can get another home game, get another tune-up game before Big 12 play gets underway. So it's a casualty for sure, but always and when I say electric game, it's always an electric game, not like a fireworks by any means, but certainly big, ugly, run the ball, don't turn the ball over.
Well, oftentimes, I mean, the game is Iowa State won for the first time last year since 2014. So it'd been really a long streak of losses for the Cyclones. And during that Iowa win streak from 2015 to 2021, if I remember, they turned it over less than 3 times total in all those games combined. They did not make mistakes whatsoever. And then their defense and special teams just drove you nuts because it was always quality across the board, and they could beat Iowa State in that perspective. So, but last year was different. Iowa State found a way. They played outstanding defense. Their offense was not good across the board last year, but they were able to make enough plays on a 99-yard drive and get that win ultimately. For Coach Ferentz, it's been a very interesting last 12 months. There have been so many different reports of how he runs his program at Iowa. He's taken shots, and he's a clean-cut image. He's had a lot of success at Iowa, created stability. But there's like this weird kind of vibe between I feel him kind of and that administration right now in Iowa City. So, Cyhawk usually puts things in the spotlight from a statewide perspective and a national one from a less perspective. And for both teams, they've got questions in various perspectives. I don't know if Iowa State's going to have enough offense on their own to potentially compete. Both defenses will be strong, and I expect it to be a defensive-laden game, potentially the whole game. And it sounds simple, but it really is going to come down to turnovers and, a potential key special teams play or a broken coverage maybe if one defense makes a mistake. So energy will be there. Jack Trice will have a lot of juice. Ticket prices are off the rails in the resale market, so it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great game coming up. And not only is the one where the talented team wins more often than not. I remember those Brock Purdy, Brees Hall teams that just couldn't seem to put together clean enough games for Iowa to beat Iowa. And those are talented teams. Those Fiesta Bowl teams, those are outstanding players. But it comes down to who can play clean football. Last year, Iowa State was able to do it, like you said, with maybe not such a great offense. Certainly not a huge upgrade, if any, this year. But I mean, I'm juiced. I'm excited for it. And you're right. Like, things could get really uneasy for Kirk Ferentz. Now, I get that they reward mediocrity more than any other program in the history of college football. So the bar is real low to keep that stability. But you look at the Big Ten. I mean, Nebraska just upgraded their head coach. Even if they don't think that, Wisconsin definitely did. PJ Fleck looks like the real deal over in Minnesota, bringing that program to relevancy.
Yeah.
You look at what Brett Bielema was doing in Illinois. Sorry to bring his name up as an Arkansas fan, but he's doing some good stuff in Champaign. And then you bring in coaches like Lincoln Riley and Chip Kelly and Philip DeBoer, and it's just a murderer's row. Dan Lanning. Now, granted, the thing with Oregon is that we haven't really seen Dan Lanning win anything in the conference. I know that he took shots at Colorado, which I think is funny because he took over Oregon in such a good spot, as that's been treated as a stepping stone job as of late. Can't say that about a lot of teams in the Big Ten. And then, of course, Jim Harbaugh and Ryan Day are going to be electric as well. So you look at that and you think, well, you got old Kirk here, minus the racial mistreatment of his players from a couple years ago. Pretty clean record, pretty solid. A very above mediocre coach for sure. Like I said last week, wouldn't cut it at Nebraska, but it is different standards there. This could be kind of the turning point where if you do want to start fresh as a program and kind of rebuild a new era, this is probably going to be the time to do it.
Yep, it's a good opportunity for both teams too, and for Coach Campbell at Iowa State. Look, he's still a heavily, heavily respected coach. No one would ever want to change that even remotely. In terms of no one's wanting a coaching change. They had a tough year last year. No one was saying, hey, this doesn't seem like they're going the right direction anymore. That's not even remotely the case. But look, wins are going to be expected at times. And for Coach Campbell, he is a competitor. Iowa State even despite all the offseason turbulence, one thing that people always forget in any single scandal is you win a bunch, people tend to forget traditionally. So Iowa State's going to try to go down that road. It should be a great game. And hopefully, from an Iowa State Big 12 perspective, they can find a way to win. But we'll see. I think Iowa does have better QB play on paper for sure. And that will also be a factor and could be the difference. We'll see.
We'll see. But last week earlier this week, he gave us a good little teaser about some way to earn some extra cash. I had a horrible week betting last week. Hopefully turning it around. What do I got to do here? What's the move?
Well, Brandon, you got the over under 36.5 for this game. And it'll change, throughout too. But, on paper, it's fascinating because everybody's going to hammer that under. So, I'd say let people hammer the under all week. Let that number go down a little bit. I still weirdly think conditions, I think, are going to be pretty solid for the day. It won't be like junky weather like it was last year. This game is weird enough that I could also see just some junk explosive plays out as well. So let people hit that under all week. You still really believe it. If not, you might be able to get a discount on that over.
I think you're right on the money. 36 points for a Power 5 football game is an insane under total. And yeah, I don't think the weather's going to be nearly as bad. You look at the last couple of years and like, okay, well, yeah, they didn't come close to 36 points for that total there, but the weather's going to be better this year, hopefully. I guess we'll see come Saturday, but I mean, that's certainly not.
It should be great. Hey, our beloved Ames tailgate parking lots are just going to be flowing on
that bridge.
They'll have their Ames Lager going. Ames Lager is going to be going, so it's going to be a good time.
Incredible stuff in Ames. I'll say it's the toughest place to play in Iowa.
I agree. But you're not going to have me hate that.
Well, that's why we have you on. I need somebody who doesn't fight too much with my Iowa slander.
Honestly, you could say the most outrageous stuff, and I might deep down not agree, but you're not going to hear me say it. I'm just going to be like, yep, I'll laugh. It really is that simple. Like you could say just the most absurd. You could say they're I don't know, burying people underneath, Iowa City, like underneath the field. I'd say I would think I've never heard of it. Would you say? Yep, sounds right to me.
You know what? I've never actually checked under the stadium, so you might be onto something there.
Hey, that's the thing. You could really take these to certain levels that you might start getting national articles. Yeah. That you could just have some national writer be like, reports are that Iowa puts people underneath. Like you could just get that going.
Drew Russell, we're going to start a rumor on the show. I don't know what it's going to be, but we're going to start a rumor here.
You should just create like a wheel of like just stupid rumors about Iowa football, and then just spin it, and then just go on that tangent.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the move. I know what we're doing next week. We're making a propaganda.
You better have that wheel. Do I need to build a wheel? I could build a wheel.
I mean, if you want to build it, if you build it,
I think we need a physical. I mean, you could do the online wheel, like you could do that and spin it, but there's something about a physical wheel. You hear that, like Price is Right. You see that wheel go, you just love it. You have to watch.
Yeah, I think we're onto something. This is going to be the high quality program that we want to be.
Indeed.
There are other Big 12 teams in the conference, and this is going to be a great week for the Big 12 as a total. Kansas and Illinois gets underway on Friday. That's going to be electric. Kansas is bringing out their blackout uniforms. Have you gotten to see those yet?
I have. They're quality. They do look pretty sharp. They really nice trim. They've done a good job. Kansas has been really good at rebranding their program the last couple of years. They're trying to become cool to the average high school and collegiate kid, and they're doing a solid job of rebuilding that.
Yeah, it's an interesting uniform because I think typically when you do a blackout uniform, you want it to be as clean as possible. You don't want it to be very, very, very noisy. You just want a clean, dark look. Or when you go with the like the big colors or the big logos, you really want to go all in on that. And it seems like Kansas has kind of meshed it together in a way that I think works for them and probably only them. I've got the big bird on big blue bird on the helmet. The blue trim looks very, very nice. And I think for as noisy as it is, I think they nailed it.
For sure, for sure. And you know what else they're nailing right now? That offensive side of the football. They had such
I
a
mean,
nice week one performance. They had over 500 total team yards against Missouri State, really lit up the scoreboard in the process. This is a team that really, really is good at scoring the football. Bean has had a really nice week one at QB. I think he's going to continue to make positive steps. And Illinois has, done a nice job. I mean, Brett Bielema has taken a program that kind of historically has had a lot of struggles, has made them at least respectable for right now, though I have my doubts on that tail end as I've seen it at a previous program. But Kansas is really, offensively has been great. Defensive side of the football is where they need to continue to make improvements. And I think they can, but it's going to have to be a week by week deal. And Illinois is kind of a good team for it. That Illinois kind of average offensively, so this could be an opportunity for Kansas at home to see if they can make a statement a little bit defensively, or at least be opportunistic where it's a bend but don't break.
should be a good one. Friday Night Lights. I'm excited. It's a standalone game pretty much for Power 5 football. Just kind of skimming through the schedule here. Cincinnati, Pittsburgh should be good. Baylor's looking to bounce back at home against Utah. Still unsure about if Cam Rising is going to be available, but last week didn't look like they really needed him.
Yeah, I really love that Utah, a future Big 12 member, how tough they've scheduled this year. Your first 2 weeks of the season are against Florida, who is historically a great program, and then go on to road at Baylor, who just won Big 12 just a couple of years ago. Tough way to start a season, but when you're battle tested, you're more likely to find those big results come November and into bowl season as well.
No kidding. Kansas State and BYU get a couple of stinkers in Troy and Southern Utah. Oklahoma plays SMU. SMU is going to be excited about that game. I don't think Oklahoma, will break these down here. West Virginia gets another cupcake. Texas Tech, an opportunity again to bounce back against Oregon in the same boat as Baylor. Really disappointing loss last week, but frankly, if they win this week, all could be forgiven. Texas and Alabama, the big heavy hitters going on at it this week, was an electric game last year. UCF and Boise State, Rice and Houston, Nichols and TCU, and then Oklahoma State and Arizona State. Lots of Big 12 versus Pac-12 / soon to be Big 12 matchups on the schedule here. I'm juiced. Other than Iowa and Iowa State, what matchups are you looking forward to the most about just getting after?
Yeah, on paper, I'd be remiss if I didn't put Texas Alabama. That's just a great matchup, a primetime game in Tuscaloosa. Really good energy, and for Texas, an opportunity. They really compete as well, if not better than Alabama last year at home, and couldn't find a way to win. Alabama, I think, has made a few improvements this season, though losing, Bryce Young isn't exactly a great thing. But Texas, they have an opportunity here. They've got the QB play. They've got the offensive weapons. Defense is tough. I don't know if they have the coaching. Sarkisian, coaches under good old, Nick Saban. And as a head coach himself, he's still looking for success, but there's an opportunity to do it. So that game's kind of interesting to me. Cincinnati-Pittsburgh is a really unique game to me. Pitt is always usually a very good ACC team. Has had some good success the last 2 years. Cincinnati, really nice little opportunity to see if they can make a statement on the road. And then Texas Tech, Oregon. Let's get weird. I think that's a really, really fun matchup for Tech. And last week they were expected to win even on the road. This is a matchup that Oregon on paper might be the better team, but it just feels like an opportunity for Tech to find a way to get it done.
And when I had gone through my season predictions here. These are pretty easy wins for Utah and Oregon that I drew up. But if you're Baylor and if you're Texas Tech, starting the year 0-2 is, I mean, that lights a fire under your cleats that
Hmm.
I didn't expect to be there. So I think those games become a lot more interesting, a lot more competitive because of the fact that they came up short last week, and especially hosting these two schools. I mean, that's not easy. Lubbock's going to give Oregon all that they can handle. And overall, we're just seeing some good future Big 12 football here with Utah, Baylor, Oklahoma State, Arizona State. Then, of course, Alabama and Texas is just going to be fireworks. I can't wait to see that. We're going to get to another example of the propaganda I'm pushing that SEC defenses aren't actually good. They just play stinky quarterbacks. Quinn Ewers has an opportunity, I think, to light them up pretty well. But outstanding slate for the Big 12 here.
Yeah, it is. And shoot, SMU Oklahoma is a funny matchup to me because right now that's the AAC versus the Big 12, and next year that'll be the ACC versus the SEC. So just a funny little conference deal there.
That
It will be interesting on that front, but definitely a better week 2 slate. And Houston Rice also will be kind of fascinating to me too, just from the standpoint of Rice was not bad against Texas last week. They definitely showed that they could compete for a good chunk of that football game. Houston is not as good of a football team as of right now compared to Texas. So Rice could be a pretty salty little play there in that matchup.
You're absolutely right there. And if you're Houston and you get your eyes set on a bowl game, these are the games that you got to feast on. These are the games that you got to have in your pocket, as you may only get 2 or 3 wins in the Big 12 or 2 or 3 looks in the Big 12 to really win there. But Alex, we got to get after it. We got lots of good stuff here.
We got picks to make, Brandon. Yeah. I mean, if we got, this is our opportunity this is our comeback story this week. We're going to, 10-4 last week for each of us. We're both we can go perfect the rest of the way. In fact, after I make these picks, I'm going to go do a 14-team parlay, and it's going to be all right. And then we can, we'll finally have an advertising budget for this podcast. All going to be spent right here. It's all spent on the Big 12.
Wouldn't want that money going anywhere else. And I mean, just like last week, I feel pretty good about how I see these games. Granted, I felt that way last week, and 10-4 isn't bad, but I mean, I expected to feel comfortable about maybe a 12-2 slate, maybe a 13-1 slate is kind of what I had in mind. But overall, lots of good stuff. And we'll get started Friday night, Illinois and Kansas. How you feeling?
Kansas, I really like in this matchup. I think this is the type of game that they kind of thrive in. I like that they pick, traditionally, I'm not a fan of playing a Friday night football game for a college team, and I'm still not necessarily a major fan. But for Kansas to create exposure, these are the type of games that they need to play in just to create more exposure. Being, again, said earlier, had a great start to his season. They were productive week 1. I think they keep that momentum going, so I'm going to go Kansas at home.
It's a good pick.
Yep, simple.
When I just went over to the next tab, did it change the screen? So hold on.
I still got it. I still have the tab. I still got it right there.
Okay, so what do you see now? Do you see the spreadsheet still?
I still see the spreadsheet.
Okay.
It says Brandon, you got Illinois.
Okay.
Pretty much it has just the road and home team, like the road team's under your name, the home team's under my name.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just clicked away and I'm like, did it change? But okay.
Illinois. You're good.
Wait, so you had Kansas, right?
I had Kansas, yeah.
Cool. Illinois struggling a little bit against Toledo last week. And now going to Kansas. Now, granted, not the most electric of environments, but Kansas is buzzing. I just have such a hard time imagining that Illinois is going to be able to hang on. And so I think I'm right there with you. Of course, in theory, the Big 12 defense comes into play. And get after it that way. But I like Kansas here a lot. I think they're going to put up a bunch of points. I think they're going to get up for it. I think they know this is an opportunity to pick up a non-conference Power 5 win. And I think they're going to take full advantage of that.
We're going to find out. I think it's a great opportunity for them, though. They have the players to get it done, and we'll see if they can. And what should probably be a warm night in Lawrence.
Up next, Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, and I think you alluded to this really well. We talked about Cincinnati last week. They look like a Power 5 team beating up on a Group of 5 team. This is a good test. Can you now be a Power 5 team to go on the road and beat up on another Power 5 team? And I think this is the first test to see if they can do that. On the road's always tricky, but give me the Bearcats. I'm a Satterfield believer. I'm pretty juiced about the Bearcats this year.
Yeah, Satterfield, they had a great week 1 performance. Really were able to create some positivity. Pittsburgh's just a tough team, They are. They're at home. They've seen great amounts of success the last few years. They play more of that pro style as well offensively. So that's always, which is weird that a pro style or just seeing an I formation is something different for college football, but it is. It's not something that defenses usually have to prepare for on a regular basis. So that kind of style is going to be a little bit different as well. And look, Cincinnati lit it up in terms of offense in week 1 against a lesser opponent, but they had over 600 yards of offense. They're able to really do whatever they want. Pitt's defense will be a little bit stronger. Cincinnati's doing a lot of positive stuff right now, but I am going to go Pittsburgh.
Wow. All right.
I know. Yeah, I know. Just, we've got this beautiful podcast name of Big 12 or Go Home. And, every time I pick against the Big 12, it hurts. But as you know, Brandon, you got to pick winners as well. And you got to do what you can. So.
Yeah, that number at the bottom doesn't care if you picked all Big 12 teams or not. It cares about which number is bigger, how much bigger is it.
That's right.
But we'll kind of bounce around here. We'll want to save the best for last. Troy and Kansas State. I think this one's pretty easy. I think Kansas State rolls. I think they are buzzing. They showed that. Yep. I think they're as good as I think they are as far as Big 12 play goes. So I think we'll see that against Troy.
Yep, you're not going to have me fight that one even remotely. K-State for me as well. And another good just tune-up game as they continue to transition into tougher competition.
Same kind of thing for BYU. I like the Cougs. I think their defense showed really good potential last week. I don't know much about Southern Utah, but I feel pretty confident in saying that BYU gets the win at home against a directional Utah school.
Yep, BYU for me as well. Would like to see a little more offense from BYU. Defense was top-notch week 1. Offense did have some struggles, so something to keep an eye on, see if they can be a little cleaner there.
Then jumping ahead here, SMU and Oklahoma, like you said, a very funny matchup as far as, it's Big 12 AAC this year. Next year, totally different conference. SMU, I get them on my feet a little bit just because they like to chirp at TCU quite a bit, especially after what happened Saturday. But I think Oklahoma takes care of business. I think that they kind of put them back in their place a little bit.
Yeah, Oklahoma as well. Dylan Gabriel had a really nice week 1 performance. Defense really strong to post a shutout. Granted, not exactly a great opponent, but that defense under year 2 of Brent Venables is something to keep an eye on for the Boomer Sooners. But I got Oklahoma as well, and I think it won't be particularly close.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. If Oklahoma is the team that they say that they're going to be, then I think this is Boomer Sooner all the way.
Yeah.
West Virginia at home against Duquesne. I had to look up the pronunciation there. And I think I have a general rule with them. If I have to look up the pronunciation of your school and I do not have to do that for the other team, then I'm going to err with the other team here. Pretty confident.
You don't know about my beloved Duquesne Dukes? You can't beat Duquesne, an A10 legend team in college hoops. They go all in out here in the East Coast in Duquesne, but But that said, I've never know much about Duquesne football. So if I don't know much about that, usually they're not doing a lot. I'll admit though, I got West Virginia. I don't think it'll be particularly close, but if for some outlandish reason, if West Virginia doesn't take care of their business, Coach Brown, there's going to be a for sale sign or a lot of them outside his home after the game.
Absolutely. If he can't pick up this win, then I mean it's real trouble. Bouncing down, UCF and Boise State, same kind of thing. Like I said for Cincinnati, kind of goes for UCF here. Real good performance. They look like a Power 5 team beating up on a Group of 5 team. I think this is another probably a trickier opportunity to do that, especially on the road in Boise. They get after it, but I think UCF takes care of business here.
I've got UCF as well. Boise State is I think, very difficult team, especially up in the Northwest. But for UCF, I really did come away impressed after their week 1 performance. I thought Plumlee had a couple mistakes, but really was able to do some solid stuff. Richardson puts up a 100-yard day on the ground, opportunistic defensively. I think UCF can find a way. I think that'll be a one-possession game. Could go either way. I'm going to say the ball bounces towards UCF kind of thing. So.
Understood. Houston and Rice. I think we kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier. Houston, this is you got to feast on these games. You got to try to build some momentum. I think Big 12 slate's going to kind of kick them back in momentum, but I think this is one that you got to win. And I don't have enough about Rice. They looked okay at times against Texas last week, but I don't think that the gap's that big, right? I would give Houston any much trouble.
Houston's still the better overall football team. They've just got to go out and execute and avoid that road trap that Rice will set. And a great former Southwest Conference matchup. I still will always give some love to the Southwest Conference. This is one of them right here. So, gotta love those Owls of Rice. But yeah, I got Houston as well. Though I think Rice will be in the game.
Nichols and TCU. TCU, I mean, huge opportunity for them to bounce back. I think that losing as 20-point favorites at home to Colorado, justified. I think Colorado's a lot better than everybody expected them to be, but I think this is an opportunity where they dial it in, and I think that they show that, hey, last week was tough, but we still are a very good team. I like TCU here.
Yep, bounce back for TCU. Should be able to take care of business in week 2.
Also, I'll be at that game, so if they do lose, then I mean it's a disaster.
Then I'm gonna fully blame you because that I'd say I could see you posting a photo and you're in a Nichols shirt for no reason. I was like, of course he got me. Like you quickly before the game, like I'm gonna change the pick to Nichols. No, I know you wouldn't do that, but
I'll show up in a TCU Horned Frog sweater, and then as soon as the camera pans to me, I got Nichols gear underneath.
Yep, you point down at that shirt. You point down. That's the way.
And now we got some good stuff going on here. Oklahoma State, Arizona State. Both teams not looking horribly impressive last week. Arizona State with the new head coach, still kind of putting the pieces together after the Herm Edwards debacle. Oklahoma State, not great quarterback play last week. Still trying to figure it out there. But I think in this matchup, I think talent favors Oklahoma State a little bit. And then I think head coaching favors them quite a bit, to where even in Tempe, I like the Cowboys.
Yeah, this is our after dark game of the week. And this is the exact type of game you would watch at 1 a.m. in the morning. Like, seriously, like, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be great, but it's going to be entertaining at times. It's going to be a close game. I just feel like neither team has that ability to, like, pull away unless somebody really doesn't show up. I got Oklahoma State, though. This is a future Big 12 matchup. I'm curious about the progress of Arizona State in the coming years as well as they'll join the conference because, that's an area that they could potentially win. A lot of people want to go to Arizona State, and clearly for their academics, not for anything else, of course. And but their progression will be interesting to watch. I'm going to take Oklahoma State. A lot of it's just surely tradition, not necessarily even the on the field performance this year. And we'll see if they can find a way to get it done.
Certainly, I mean, you said this is the after dark matchup. Of course, we get more prominent matchups like Oklahoma and Texas. They play some good teams here. Alabama on the slate, but I mean, this is dirty, gritty Big 12 football. I can't wait for it. Up next, we'll get after Oregon and Texas Tech. Again, this is one preseason I would have given to Oregon pretty handily. I just think that at Oregon, I think Oregon is just one of the best teams in the country, and I think Texas Tech is really good, but not quite on that probably second tier of the country. But I do give Texas Tech some credit here. I think this could be an opportunity for them to pull off an upset. They got some fire underneath their cleats now. Lubbock's not going to be nice to Oregon, but give me the Ducks. 81-0 is not nothing.
No, it's not. The Ducks have so often underachieved, it feels like, the last few years, just based on the talent that they usually can get on those teams. They've got a lot of 4- and 5-star recruits that are on that team. Texas Tech, they had a tough week 1. Their fan base needs to show up for week 2 because the energy on that campus is going to be, dang, we lost. There might not be as much enthusiasm based on, at this point, week 1 performance. If they're playing a more no-name or they're paying a team to come in, they might not get a great crowd for that game. But they're going to with Oregon, and they're going to show up, and they're going to have to show up. And Texas Tech, if they play with fire and energy, they're going to keep it close. That's about guaranteed. I don't know if they have the horses, though, right now to hang with this Oregon team. But Oregon's the ultimate Jekyll and Hyde team. You don't really know what you're going to get oftentimes. I'm taking Oregon as well. It's going to be an interesting game, but Lubbock Magic could very easily come into fruition.
I agree. And Oregon, it feels like this would be a game that they would just overlook and drop. It just feels like a dumb loss for Oregon. And I think if the talent was even a little bit closer, I'd probably give Texas Tech the nod. But Oregon has college football playoff aspirations, and I think when you have those kind of aspirations, you go into these games in particular and think these are ones that we got to win. We're going to have some tough ones. We're going to play Utah. We're going to play USC. Colorado looks like a tough route now. Oregon State looks pretty good. They're always going to give us their best game. All these good teams. We got to take care of the non-conference slate, as tricky as it may be, going to Lubbock.
Yep, they're going to have to find a way to get it done on the road if you're Oregon. And for Texas Tech, you can turn the tide on this season. You find a way to win this game. I say your season's right back on track. You've got good positive energy going to Big 12 play. But if they lose, whether that's a heartbreaker or they just get run over or don't play well, I mean, there's going to be real frustration in that locker room after such a positive year last year to start 0-2. It's a major game for Tech, even, a bit of a dog, but they're at home. They're going to have to compete. If they find a way to win, they get their season back on track. If they don't, then there's going to be some soul searching for that next week.
You're right. I mean, just a tough place to be. 0-2 is certainly not where they would have pegged their season. And we saw Texas take it out to a slow start last year and get better as the year goes on. And even if they do start 0-2, I think their real goals as far as like the Big 12 goes are still intact. Not a total disaster, but man, the vibes would be negligent at best.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll wrap up our Big 12 versus soon to be Big 12, but currently Pac-12 slate. Utah and Baylor, same kind of thing. I think Utah is the more talented team, but I think Baylor a little bit more desperate. They might come out and really put it to Utah.
Yeah.
Waco. McLean Stadium, not an easy place to play, but I do think give me Utah. I'm still unsure about Cam Rising if he plays or not. If he plays, then I think it's pretty much a wrap. But even after, if Baylor does win, I would definitely attribute it to they're the more desperate team. They're the more hungry team here at home. Utah just had a big big win at home against Florida, and they might be buzzing a little bit too high. But I think same kind of thing for Oregon. They have CFP hopes, not just conference title hopes. And I think you look at this game and be like, all right, that was great last week, but we got to ramp up, dial in. And I think that coaching staff at Utah is built to kind of maintain this momentum here.
They are. And, what Kyle Whittingham has done at Utah has been phenomenal, getting to the Rose Bowl in back-to-back years, another future Big 12 matchup. So that's going to be a lot of fun, just those two teams getting to know each other just a little bit more. Baylor's in the exact same spot as Texas Tech. I mean, you get an opportunity at home to try to save this season. You win this game against a team with the pedigree of Utah, you can kind of rebuild that confidence and still put together a really nice to great season, not even remotely too late. But again, if it's close or if it's a blowout and you lose, you're 0-2, losing 2 home games especially, that would be a very bitter taste to start the season and could create the opportunity for derailment. So big game for Baylor. They just were too uninspired for me last week, and I think they'll play better this week. I can about guarantee it, but I still got Utah. Utah, they are stone cold. That is just a well-coached team. But Baylor, talent-wise, can hang with them, but I'm going to go Utah as well.
Just a tricky game because last week was supposed to be the tune-up in theory for this game, for these games for Texas Tech and Baylor, and now all of a sudden you get your backs against the wall. Maybe that inspires you a little bit. But yeah, the talent gap, I think they're just not built to win these games. Cy-Hawk game, baby. I mean, this is the game that we let off with. This is the game that I'm juiced about. Love Iowa State. Go Clones. I hate Iowa. For many reasons. We're going to be starting a pretty mean rumor about them here pretty soon. I've heard some nasty things, that we're going to be, Big J journalists breaking the news next week.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have the wheel coming soon. And I'll tell you what, this guy, Brandon Shanahan, this man knows how to generate content like no one else. So I guarantee this guy is going to have some sick stuff that he's going to be coming up with. And I'll tell you what, right now, I can tell you this, the tap water in Ames, way better than the tap water in Iowa City. That's not interrupted. That's just a fact. Yeah, that's just a simple, obvious statement. Both of us can easily confirm that one. So, that's a guarantee. In terms of the game itself, Iowa State, really big opportunity here. If they win this game, then it feels like that junk of the offseason they put behind them. It would really feel more official and an opportunity to really springboard into what could be a really interesting season. They're still viewed as a lower half Big 12 team. Don't even remotely disagree with it after last year's performance. This is a really good chance at home to see if they can get it done. And I'm going to say they do, Brandon. I'm going to say they find a way. Iowa doesn't make mistakes often, but I'll say they have a couple key turnovers. Iowa State special teams is a little cleaner. Defense is cleaner, and the offense does just enough. So I'm going to go ISU.
That's a bold
but I don't
move.
think I could. I don't think I could pick Iowa personally. I don't feel right. And I get, you got to win though too. I get that.
And that's very much where I'm at. If I was just trying to look 100% objectively, I think Iowa's got some good pieces there. Especially coming off a Cy-Hawk loss last year. I think they might be even a little bit more dialed, and they play at the tougher environments in Ames, so they don't get the cupcake of having Iowa State come out to the 7th largest stadium in the Big Ten. So I think that helps them. But I think you're right. Even if I did truly believe that Iowa was by and large the better team, this is a vibes pick. I mean, I would much rather pick Iowa State and lose this one because all my other picks are solid. I feel so good about those. I'll give this one to the vibes. I'd rather pick Iowa State and lose than pick Iowa and be right.
That's the correct way to look at it. That should be a lifelong phrase. Get that framed right behind you. Frame it up top because that should just be a motto.
Absolutely.
We need to start a wall of mottos for this show, and then just it's almost like, I don't know, the 10 Commandments. You just look at it and you're like, you have your phrases. That's one of them. That's number one.
My favorite bets of the last few years, and for some reason Nebraska keeps being favored over Iowa, is Iowa money line, and that's because I profit off of their wins, but I'd rather lose that money every time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's investment well spent. Hatred is definitely a reason to lose money. If that's what it takes, then that's what it takes. Whatever makes you sleep at night, you have to sleep at night.
And last game, probably definitely the most firepower on the same football field here, Texas and Alabama. Texas gave Alabama a good show last year, and now going to Tuscaloosa. Quinn Ewers hopefully back. Hopefully he can stay upright. If not, not Milrow. Who's the the backup
Arch.
quarterback? No,
Arch.
No, they had somebody play that wasn't Arch.
Last year they had Card, wasn't it? No, not Card.
Oh yeah, Hudson Card, but
yeah.
Malik Murphy.
That's
So even if Quinn Ewers can't stay upright again, Malik Murphy, I think, is a little bit better built to come in and compete at this high level. But Tuscaloosa is the key word here. I don't think Alabama's going to let a Big 12 team come in and beat them at home. And we've seen their Achilles heel over the last couple of years be going on the road, going to Baton Rouge, going to Knoxville, going on the road and struggling against Texas A&M. And I think this is where Alabama really can put their foot on the gas pedal. I don't have any objective analysis behind this, but it feels very similar to when USC and Alabama played a few years ago. There's a lot of excitement going towards it. We got two blue blood brands of college football going after it. Then Alabama waxes the floor with them. I don't think it'll be that bad, but those are the vibes that I'm picking up. And as we just mentioned, this is a vibe show more than anything else.
That's what it's all about. I mean, if we don't have the right vibes, why are we here? And the vibes for this game are Texas has a shot. They do. Like, they proved it last year that talent-wise they can compete with Alabama. I said earlier, coaching is something that just straight up concerns me. Nick Saban, look, he doesn't need any justification. He might be the GOAT of college coaches. You could make a strong argument for that. Steve Sarkisian, look, he's just trying to find a way to win one conference championship in his lifetime. So just trying to prove that is going to be major. And, Jalen Monroe, the, new starting quarterback for Alabama, had a productive week one. And that competition is going to go up in week two. But he might have ice in his veins. And if he does, can that Texas defense find a way to slow him down enough? I'll say no. I think they can at times. I say they won't when they need it to count. So for me, I've got Alabama home game as well. But certain stadiums you go into and you're highly intimidated. Bryant-Denny is one of them, but Texas has the first 10 minutes are going to set the tone for the game. If they can get out to a quick start, get the crowd a little out of it, that'll play a major impact. They've got to get out to a quick start. They jump behind. Odds aren't going to be in their favor.
I think you're absolutely right. I think in Alabama, I think they're going to get back to a little bit more of what we saw when they were really dominating college football. They were very fortunate, had an all-time college football quarterback in Bryce Young. And so when you have that talent, you really just kind of build around him. But now that you lose him, you kind of get back to your roots: strong, powerful running game, efficient passing system, outstanding defense is going to be pretty similar there. Of course, it's going to look a lot better when you're playing the stinky SEC quarterbacks as opposed to, competent quarterbacks like I think Quinn Ewers can be. So, but yeah, I think Alabama wins here pretty easily here.
Yeah, I think so too. But Texas, again, has the talent to compete with Alabama. They really do. We'll see if they can find a way to maybe mix that right formula. But it's a roll tide week, in my opinion. And, this is the Big 12 or Go Home podcast. But, Texas, I'm not going to be heartbroken, Brandon. if they can't get it done, not even remotely.
No. I mean, not quite to the level of Iowa, but I will definitely be rooting for Texas to lose here.
Yeah,
And
it'll
so,
be a good game though. It'll be a good game.
and now we got the full slate in front of us. Now that we have all these picked here, are there any that you have your doubts about? What's one that you are looking at and thinking like, well, if I don't go a perfect 14-0, this is probably where I messed up.
A good question. I think the game that I have admittingly some concern about would be that Oklahoma State-Arizona State game. Because Oklahoma State, offensively, I think they're still trying to figure it out. Arizona State is in that moment of transition, but it seems they've got, I've read a few articles that their coaching staff and their team seem to have really bonded extremely well throughout the offseason. So when you play for a group of people that you like as teammates, that's always going to go well. So Oklahoma State is one that could be a little bit dicey. If you told me I had to pick one to change, it probably would be that one. Also, KU at home is a little risky because it's like still in the back of your head, just historically, it's like that's KU. They don't ever win, and it's weird to like actually have faith in them. And on the field, they're getting it done. But Illinois is a quality team too, so that could probably be 1A and 1B.
Yeah, Oklahoma State and Arizona State could very well. I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona State can pick up that one. I give Oklahoma State the benefit of the doubt just because their coach is more established. But Kenny Dillingham, the thing with first-year head coaches is that, yeah, it might take some time. And, yeah, they certainly got a mess to clean up after the previous regime. But as we saw Saturday with Coach Prime, if you get the right guy there, it doesn't take long to rise up that floor. And this is a down Oklahoma State team, so I think that's absolutely one on the radar. If I were to swap one of mine, I'd probably look at Texas Tech beating Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so high on Texas Tech. I had them, I think, finishing with 2 losses, just
Mm-hmm.
1 or 2 wins away from the Big 12 title game. And I think they're going to be a little bit more dialed in, as I said it. And this feels like a dumb game for Oregon to lose, which we've seen them lose dumb games before. It wouldn't surprise me for them to take themselves out of the CFP race before we even get out of the non-conference slate. So that's also where I look as well. But otherwise, I think we did pretty good work here. I think other than Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, I think we're on the same page through and through.
Yeah, in general. So we're not going to see a lot of movement in our total season standings, no matter what this week. But, a week that I think you and I are relatively clearly on the same page. But these are a lot of winnable games for the Big 12. And though they had an underwhelming week 1 for the majority, they have a chance to turn things around. And, but then again, things could go sideways again. We mentioned kind of our doubts. And even UCF Boise State, I think Boise State's always just tough at home. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on as well. But I like our picks, Brandon. And as I always say, we're both going to go 14-0 or 13-1 that's the low bar this week for us, 13-1. I can live with that. We definitely got it. We got our 13, and then we'll just coin flip it on Cincinnati and Pitt. Simple.
You got that right. I think we got a good slate here. Certainly, I think we nailed every one of them. Of course, we'll see who's the victor for Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. But exciting week. College football is officially back. We got you covered here on the Cornerstone Connection Network. Obviously, a sadder week for Cornerstone Connection as a total. Bookie Brook and the boys trying to win you some money. I need a bounce back here. I think I lost like $1,000 hypothetical dollars. I was really counting on LSU to come through, and they did not. But definitely going to be hammering the over Iowa State and Iowa. 36 points is crazy for a Power 5 game.
Guarantee. Yeah, no. And ladies and gentlemen, make sure you get into the Brandon here has created one of the great betting parlays in American history with the Rude Russell special. Make sure you bet on Iowa State and Arkansas this week. Guaranteed winner every single time. Or if you fade it, you might be a guaranteed winner every single time. But it's an electric bet, and those are 2 of the most topsy-turvy teams in college football. It's always mayhem.
Wins just enough to keep you going. And I mean,
you hit it
and
once every about 5 to 6 times. You're like, that's all you need.
Yep, it pays for the losses. And then, it's just a reason to watch those 2 electric football programs.
Hey, those 2 fan bases, I'm a part of both of them, and they could not be more different. Iowa State fans, some chaotic ones, but, generally pretty classy. They're down to earth, good, depends on who you ask. Then there's Arkansas fans, and hey, we're proud. We're proud of who we are. We're not perfect, but there's you've gotten to know the Arkansas fan base a little bit, Brandon, and it's a scene.
They get after it for sure.
That's guaranteed. Yeah, I mean, you go into those message boards, any SEC message board following a loss. If you just need a good laugh, if you're just looking for entertainment, that's it.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the best place on earth.
There's almost nothing better for sure. Well, perfect. Drew Dressel, anything else that you'd like to add here before we wrap up for the week?
Hey, I want to give a shout out to future Big 12 member Colorado as well this week. Them and Nebraska going to have a really interesting week 2 game. I know you got it covered on your other podcast, but this is a really interesting game.
How exciting is that? I mean, and for 2 programs that last year were so, Nebraska fired their coach 3. I think they both fired their head coach before conference play even started. And then, Colorado's the worst team in college football. And then Nebraska is just meh. And now all of a sudden, this is an electric matchup. And I got to say, it's from a narrative point of view, it's mapped up very, very perfectly to where Colorado, they went from the worst team in college football last year to now they're buzzing. And then Nebraska, they've been down, but Matt Rule, very sneaky, very, very quiet compared to Coach Prime and his scene over there. So it's just a great matchup. Should be a good football game. If it's a blowout,
yeah. Boulder is going to be great. Yeah, Boulder is going to be a great atmosphere Saturday. It should be a lot of fun, but we'll see how that one plays out because I think Nebraska still has a good look. I know it sounds crazy, but I don't think it's impossible.
It kind of feels like they're due and that they need this more. Like last time that they played, I feel like Colorado needed those wins more down and out as a football program the last few years. Nebraska hadn't quite fallen off as harshly as they ended up doing the next few years. But I think Nebraska needs this win. And I don't think they're going to get caught up in the Coach Prime storm. And as long as they don't let Jeff Sims throw the football very often, I think they're going to be in good shape.
Hey, ground game's the best game.
Absolutely.
Simple as that sometimes. So it should be a lot of fun. And I look forward next time we talk, Brandon. Our pockets are going to be lined with money with all the winners and correct takes we had this week. Guaranteed.
Yeah. After this 14-teamer, we'll be set up in our brand new studios. It'll be a lot better of an operation here. Drinking from our glass,
guaranteed
diamond glasses. It'll be great.
Yeah, we're gonna have maybe we can get some beverages around here.
Fantastic. Maybe even get this.
Can't wait.
We're gonna be loaded. Well, perfect. Well, that'll do it for us this week. Of course, follow along. Lots of great stuff going on here. See you next week.
Can't wait.